I spent 2 years building the new client portfolio that saved the firm. During the annual review, they eliminated my role. My name's Gerald Reeves, and for 2 years, I did what most said couldn't be done. I rebuilt the rotting skeleton of an old firm into something that could actually survive the new market. When I first walked into Linton and Holt Associates, the place smelled like dying wood. Figuratively, sure, but also literally. The firm had been around for 30 years, specializing in mid-sized logistics consulting. They had one foot in paper reports, and the other foot somewhere in a fog of forgotten Rolodexes and outdated promises. Their major clients, manufacturing plants, regional shippers, mid-level distribution warehouses, were aging out or being absorbed by tech-heavy players. They needed new blood. They needed new clients. And for reasons I still don't fully understand, they gave me a shot. I didn't come from a fancy marketing background like the golden boys they usually hired. No, I had a degree in industrial systems engineering and a second one in business process management. Efficiency, relationship building, operational pain points. That was my playground. At first, nobody listened. There was Charles, the senior partner, who thought email campaigns were a passing trend. Denise, head of legacy accounts, whose idea of outreach was a fax machine. And finally, Nancy Carter, the CFO, who smiled through gritted teeth every time I asked for budget allocations for modern CRM tools, but I didn't need their approval. I needed results, and so, silently, carefully, I began to build. First, I did what nobody else bothered to. I listened. I spent hours in grimy warehouse break rooms, dusty shipping yards, and overstuffed corporate offices, asking operations managers, floor supervisors, and CFOs of small firms what they actually needed. Not what we thought they needed, what they really needed. Patterns emerged. They needed faster freight modeling. They needed clearer 3PL, third-party logistics, integration strategies. They needed someone to fix the bleeding inefficiencies their new software platforms introduced. And guess what? Linton and Holt could offer that, if they just pivoted a little, if they stopped pretending 1995 never ended. I rebranded our services quietly under my own initiative. I called it the Rapid Adapt Logistics Suite. Fancy name, simple idea. We'd offer operational fixes tailored to firms struggling with modernization. I wrote the white papers, I presented at trade expos, I cold-called mid-level execs, and slowly, the worm began to turn. In 6 months, we landed Winchester Freight Consolidators, $1.8 million a year in consulting fees. In 9 months, Delta Supplies, regional warehousing, signed a 5-year contract. By the end of the first year, I had personally secured $7.4 million in new client portfolios. The partners were stunned. Gerald Reeves, the quiet operations guy, was now the firm's rainmaker. Of course, success paints targets on your back. By year 2, the vultures started circling. I overheard whispers at leadership dinners. "He doesn't understand long-term branding," Charles muttered once over steak and scotch. "Nancy says he's too relationship dependent." Denise giggled one Friday after too many wines. They were scared, and rightfully so. Without me, Linton and Holt was a paper tiger, but I wasn't there for politics. I was there to build something bulletproof. And so when the annual review meetings were scheduled, I walked into that conference room with confidence. Numbers, graphs, case studies, all packed into my presentation. This year would be different. This year, I thought, they would finally give me a real leadership role, a seat at the real table. Oh, how wrong I was. Annual review day started like every other: dark blue tie, pressed white shirt, leather binder under my arm. There was no reason to feel tense, not with my results, not with what I had brought to Linton and Holt. Still, something felt off. When I pushed open the conference room door, the first thing I noticed was the energy, or rather the lack of it. Charles sat stiffly at the head of the table, hands folded. Denise avoided my eyes, staring at the table like it owed her money. Nancy Carter, the CFO, perched at the far end. A thin smile stretched across her face like a taut wire ready to snap. There was a new face, too. Leonard Bates, some recent hire from a big analytics firm. He didn't belong there. Annual reviews were a closed circle thing. Partners, senior managers, and this year, the guy who had saved them. Not strangers. I should have walked out right then, but hope is a dangerous anesthetic. Charles cleared his throat. Gerald, first off, we want to thank you for your tremendous contributions, he said. That pause before tremendous was all I needed to hear. Nancy slid a manila envelope across the table toward me like she was pushing away something rotten. We're restructuring, she said. Prioritizing. Automation initiatives and digital expansion. Her voice was so rehearsed it almost sounded bored. In line with market trends, we've decided to streamline client relationship roles. Your position is being eliminated effective immediately. I didn't flinch, I didn't blink. I simply reached out, took the envelope, and tucked it neatly into my binder. I caught Leonard smirking as I did. Charles gave a long, world-weary sigh, as if this had been a burden for him personally. Denise, a dear Denise, wouldn't even look at me. I wanted to ask questions. Why now? What the hell did automation mean for a firm that ran on custom relationships and deep operational fixes? How exactly was a CRM software package going to replace my 2 years of blood, sweat, and cold calling? But I didn't ask. I already knew the answers. They thought they could automate what I had built. They thought some AI scraping client onboarding tool, some half-baked Salesforce plugin, could substitute the trust and understanding I had nurtured in grimy warehouses and chaotic dockyards. Idiots. Instead, I smiled. Thank you for the opportunity, I said. I even shook Charles's hand. I made a special point to squeeze Leonard's hand just a little too hard when he offered it. Nancy? She didn't even extend hers. Figures. I walked out of Linton and Holt with nothing but my binder and a 2-week severance package. No farewell party, no thank you plaque, not even a goddamn email blast to say I was gone. Just like that. Gerald Reeves, the man who rebuilt their future, was erased like a typo. But as I walked out into the cold December air, I didn't feel defeated. Not really. Something strange stirred in my chest. Something sharp. Something hungry. An idea. They thought they were replacing me. They thought I was obsolete. But they forgot one thing. I knew every weak point they had. Every client relationship built on my word, my promises, my network. And if they wanted to play the automation game, fine. I was about to show them that relationships, real ones, weren't something you could program into a machine. By the time they realized their mistake, it would be far too late. 3 months. That's all it took for the first calls to start coming in. At first, it was small things. Tom Albright, head of procurement at Sheffield Industrial, left me a voicemail. Hey Gerald, just wondering, are you still with Linton and Holt? We've been trying to get hold of someone about the new inventory system they rolled out. Total disaster. Give me a ring, would you? I didn't call him back. Not yet. Patience. Then came Lisa Monroe from New Haven Distributors. A polite email, masked panic underneath. Hi Gerald. Just wondering if you're consulting independently now. Having some growing pains with the new account management team. Growing pains. Nice way to put it. In reality, Linton and Holt had handed her account, an account I built with 3 years of delicate negotiations, to an algorithm. The system kept sending auto reminders to reorder pallets she didn't need. It ignored her seasonal demand swings. It double invoiced shipments. Twice, a bot-flagged priority delivery ended up in the wrong warehouse across the state, and now Lisa was staring down 150 KOA in lost sales, and it wasn't even Easter yet. Again, I didn't reply. I was building something bigger. By April, the floodgates broke open. Kevin Rhodes, COO of Panex Materials, called me at home. He was furious. You're telling me they replaced you with some goddamn chatbot? He barked into my voicemail. I don't know who the hell thought that was smart, but it's a clusterfuck over here. Gerald, if you're thinking about doing anything solo, call me, please. Panex Materials wasn't just any client. They were Linton and Holt's flagship account, the Golden Goose. Losing them would be a death sentence. I poured myself a whiskey that night, sat at my desk, and sketched the outline of my next move. Not revenge, not anger, just business. Here's the thing. Relationships aren't just contacts in a CRM system. They're living things. They need attention, adaptation, memory, and above all, trust. When I built my client portfolio, I didn't just fill order forms. I learned people's kids' names. I remembered anniversaries. I knew who needed extra flexibility in February because snowstorms wrecked deliveries, and who preferred early inventory drops in August to beat tariffs. No AI solution could fake that. At least not yet. Linton and Holt's new system, some Frankenstein mix of predictive modeling, outsourced customer service, and CRM chatbots, couldn't keep up. It wasn't even close. Clients felt abandoned, unheard, disrespected, and when relationships die, business dies with them. I had moved quietly those first months after leaving. Set up a skeleton company, Reeves Strategic Consulting. Just a placeholder, just an idea. But now, seeing the dominoes fall, I knew it was time to move. I reached out to Tom Albright first, then Lisa, then Kevin, carefully, personally. No hard sells, just conversations. Tell me what's not working, I said. They poured it out like damned. Rivers breaking loose. Delays, miscommunications, missed targets, money lost. By the time June rolled around, I had 6 major former Linton and Holt clients willing to jump ship the second I hung my shingle officially. And just like that, the thing they thought they could automate, the trust, the human touch, became the very weapon I would use to destroy them. I heard from an old friend still inside the firm, Brian Costello, mid-level manager who owed me a few favors. He called me one night after a few too many drinks. "Gerald," he slurred, "you broke the King company, man. They're hemorrhaging clients. CFO's in panic mode. Charles is screaming at Leonard daily. They're trying to plug the holes, but they don't even know where to start." I smiled. Not cruelly, not happily, just satisfied. I didn't break the company. They broke themselves the second they decided to replace human loyalty with an algorithm. I just let nature take its course. And the best part? I wasn't even done yet. It was early July when I officially launched Reeves Strategic Consulting, a bare-bones website, a minimalist business card, a LinkedIn profile that didn't scream newbie. It didn't need more than that. I wasn't out here to impress, I was out here to steal. Clients were already lining up and I knew it. Linton and Holt had left the door wide open. First call, "Hi Gerald, it's Tom Albright." There was no need for pleasantries. His tone was urgent but also relieved. "I'm with Sheffield, we are ready to move forward. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to automate our whole damn supply chain, but we need someone who understands it. I remember how you worked with us back in the day. Can we meet?" I didn't even hesitate. "Absolutely, Tom, let's set it up." That meeting? Within the first 5 minutes, we signed an agreement. I didn't even present anything. I just listened to their pain points and reassured them. "We can fix this. We'll rebuild the systems and restore the relationships." Next up, Lisa Monroe from New Haven Distributors. She'd been one of the first to feel the churn after Linton and Holt's automation nightmare. Her words were clipped, sharp. "I've got a team of people over here that are doing nothing but apologizing to clients. We're being drowned in errors from that new system. You helped us once, we need your help again." I didn't waste time making promises. "We can start tomorrow." I meant it. In the following weeks, I picked off clients one by one, not with aggressive sales tactics, not with grandiose promises, just with solutions, the kind that worked, the kind that rebuilt trust, the kind I'd been delivering long before they were. Hired that marketing-driven CEO. No fancy AI tools, no innovative solutions, just people. But it wasn't enough to just take the clients. I needed to make sure that Linton and Holt felt the weight of their mistake. I couldn't just watch as they floundered, losing more ground. I had to show them that the very thing they thought they could automate, their relationships, was the backbone of their business. Phone call to Brian Costello, inside Linton and Holt. Gerald, you have no idea what's happening here. Leonard's been begging for you to come back. The board, they're desperate. I let that sink in for a moment. Why don't you tell them they can make me an offer? Tell them. If they need me to fix the mess, I'm going to charge them 10 times what they paid me before. He laughed nervously. I'm serious, Brian. You tell them I'm coming back, but I'm coming back as a partner, not some hired gun. And then, I hung up. The seed was planted. Meanwhile, I had to be careful. I couldn't rush things. Poaching clients was one thing. Creating a sustainable business was another. I began building a lean team. Just the essentials. Smart people who knew how to execute. People who understood the importance of relationships. People who would never, ever be swayed by buzzwords or the next big thing. 6 months into Reeves Strategic Consulting, the numbers were undeniable. Clients were pouring in. Linton and Holt losing clients by the week. The first domino had fallen when Kevin Rhodes from Panex Materials had jumped ship. Panex was the crown jewel. They left. Linton and Holt would lose their reputation. The CFO called me again. This time she didn't sound calm. Gerald, this has gone too far. Come back. We'll offer you a real partnership this time. Whatever you want, just come back and fix this. But by then, I had made my decision. I wasn't going back. The final blow, Linton and Holt's board members, once smug in their decision to replace me with some shiny tech startup CEO, were now calling me every week pleading for me to return. They had no idea how bad things had gotten. The accounts were bleeding. The AI-driven innovations had failed. The CEO was still touting the new system, but no one could trust it anymore. It was too late. I knew what was coming next. They would beg. I had prepared for this moment, but it wasn't about revenge. It was about control, about making sure no one could ever forget what happened. So, I let them beg. I waited. I knew they had no choice but to come crawling. But they had already shown me who they were. They had shown me what they valued. And it wasn't the clients. It was always the bottom line. And now? Now they were going to pay for it. The phone call from Emily caught me off guard. It came exactly 6 months after I had walked out of the office with that termination letter in hand. I had never expected to hear from her again, let alone be the one they were pleading with. Gerald, we need you back, she said, her voice a mix of desperation and regret. We can't keep the clients, they don't trust us anymore. You're the only one who can fix this. The new guys, they're great with automation and numbers, but they don't understand what we built together. I took a moment to let the words sink in. 6 months ago, I was just a name on a termination list. Now I was being begged to return, and to top it off, I had already secured my first few clients for my new startup. I had built something from scratch. But the opportunity to return was too tempting. The satisfaction of knowing they needed me, the same ones who had cast me aside, was sweet, almost poetic. Why should I come back? I asked, keeping my tone measured, despite the rush of triumph that surged through me. You fired me. You took away everything I worked for. You didn't even give me the chance to finish the portfolio I had started. Gerald, we know we made a huge mistake, Emily admitted. The board is scrambling. The clients we had left, they're walking out. They've told us that if we don't have you, they'll leave too. I could almost picture Emily sitting at her desk, papers scattered around, her fingers clutching the edge of the phone as she tried to maintain some semblance of control. The once confident leader of our team was now in full damage control mode. I need some time to think it through, I said, knowing I was in control of the situation now. But I will be straight with you. If I do come back, it won't be as it was. Things will change. You can't go back to the same model that failed. The conversation ended with an agreement to meet in person the following week, where they would present their pitch. But I knew they would be desperate to get me back. The writing was on the wall. The new automated processes had failed to deliver the results they had hoped for. The board had underestimated the power of relationships, the real backbone of our business. When I arrived at the meeting, Emily and the other executives were waiting in the boardroom, clearly trying to keep their composure. But the moment I walked in, I could feel the tension. They knew this was their last chance to salvage their reputation and their clients. I took a seat at the head of the table, the same place I used to occupy before everything fell apart. The way they all avoided were eye contact only added to the sense of irony. "We've restructured," Gerald, the CFO who had been the one to terminate me, said. "We've automated a lot of the processes you found difficult to implement. We understand now that it was about more than just the numbers, but we need you to help us bridge that gap and to bring the clients back." The board was pleading, every word drenched in the regret of a decision they now knew had been a mistake. But the truth was, they didn't know how to fix it without me. They had replaced me with someone who didn't understand the core of the business. They hadn't seen that the human touch was irreplaceable, no matter how many fancy algorithms they had. I looked around the room, silently weighing my options. I could have easily walked out, taken the clients I had gained, and started my own firm, but there was something more satisfying in returning on my terms and rebuilding what they had torn apart. I had already won, but the opportunity to show them who had been the real asset all along was irresistible. "I'll come back," I said calmly. "But let's make one thing clear. If I return, the structure changes. I won't be taking a back seat to anyone. And if you want me to save the clients, we'll need to rebuild the team from the ground up. There will be no more playing it safe. This company either evolves or fades away." They nodded, almost too quickly, desperate for any sign of hope. It was a turning point. The fact that I had become the catalyst for their change was not lost on me. They were now at my mercy. In the weeks that followed, things changed. I reintroduced a client-focused model, blending cutting-edge automation with personalized, relationship-driven strategies. Slowly but surely, the clients returned, one by one, impressed by the results and the new vision. The board remained on edge, constantly second-guessing every decision, but I was in control now. The business, which had once been at the brink of collapse, was thriving again. This time thanks to the one thing they had failed to see. Relationships matter more than anything else. As for me, I knew I was on the verge of something even greater. They had begged me to return, but in reality I had no intention of staying long-term. My mind was already focused on the future, my future. It was only a matter of time before I had the freedom to do things my way. And when that time came, they'd wish they hadn't forced me to prove a point.